Completing a marathon can be a tough ask in itself, but when you want to go from completing one to competing against yourself to get a PB, marathon training can seem like a lot of hard work.
It can, and if you've run a marathon and now you want to run one quicker, you've come to the right place. Welcome to the Running Channel, I'm Kate, and today, along with Rick and Anna, we're going to give you all the tips you need to aim for that marathon PB.
If you are new around here, we upload new videos all about running every single week. So make sure you hit the subscribe button so you get notified when we do. First things first, a marathon PB is a very personal thing. 2 hours, 3 hours, 4 hours, whatever it is, it's your body, your life, your time. These tips are about maximizing your progress to get there, whether that be switching up your training techniques, mixing up how you do it, and hopefully getting you to the finish line in the best time possible.
Now, 26.2 miles is a distance that requires a lot of respect just to complete it at all, let alone run it in your fastest time. And you'll need time. Allow yourself at least 12 weeks, maybe up to 16, to train properly for a marathon. That gives you a bit of wiggle room if you go on holiday or you have a small injury or just life gets in the way. You'll still be able to fit it all in and train well.
So keep watching, because in this video we're going to be going through a number of different types of runs and techniques, including what kinds of runs you should be doing at what paces in order to maximize your training to try and run your fastest marathon yet. Mixing up your pace for different training runs is key for running a faster marathon, because you're going to need to be doing different runs at different paces in order to get stronger. So to find out more information about what different paces should feel like, just check out our video on the Running Channel for more details on that one. So we're talking about marathon pace now, and that is really key to include into your training, because you're going to need to know what that pace feels like. You're also going to be needing to do some runs that are slower than your marathon pace to recover, but also faster to get stronger.
Absolutely, and you certainly do not want to be doing all of your runs at marathon pace. That'll actually be counterproductive, because you'll end up being very fatigued and it'll take more time for you to recover. But these tempo runs are a really important part of your training, but there are some clever ways that you can incorporate them into your routine.
Let's look at long runs, for example. It's a good idea to run the last third or even second half of your long run at a marathon pace. Alternatively, run alternate miles. This is when you run 1 mile at race pace and 1 mile at a steady pace. The reason? Well, it's because you're picking up the pace when your legs are already fatigued. If you're able to do it, then it's a good idea and it gives you a good sense of where you're at when it comes to the big race itself. If you're not able to do it, it might be worth reassessing those goals.
Another way to incorporate marathon pace into your weekly training is to do a weekly tempo run entirely at your marathon pace. So start off with a warm-up of 1 to 2 miles, then run 5 to 6 miles at your planned marathon pace, and finish that off with a cool down of 1 to 2 miles. Keep this up for around 3 to 4 weeks, and then up that marathon pace mileage from 5 to 6 miles to 7 to 9. Do that again for a couple of weeks and then up it again and run 10 to 12 miles at planned marathon pace. You could also try and challenge yourself by running the second half of it progressively, so upping that pace to something around what your half marathon race pace feels like. Again, with half marathons, another idea is to book in a half marathon race during your training and run that entirely at your marathon goal pace.
It might seem backwards that in order to run faster, you need to run slower, but stick with us on this. You shouldn't do all your training at one pace and expect to get quicker. Now, as runners, we're probably all guilty of going out, blasting out runs and expecting it makes us faster. But if you want to nail that marathon PB, running slower can be a benefit, and here's why.
Your body needs to run both at top speed and very slowly in order to achieve your race pace. If you don't take your easy runs as easy as possible, then you're not going to be able to recover, and that can lead to injuries. Equally though, when you're thinking about the pace of those long, slow runs during your marathon training, you should be running some of them at a pace that is slower than your goal race pace. The reason being, as the stress alone of the distance puts a lot of pressure on our bodies. but think of them as just a hard workout, as a short, sharp, fast run.
Slow is a relative term, so what might feel slow for one runner might feel really, really fast for another. So we're not going to go into exact paces here, but instead talk about effort level. So when you're running your slower runs, it should be a 5 out of 10 for effort. So something that feels really easy and you can still hold a conversation. So to put that into context with numbers, you should be thinking around 45 seconds to 90 seconds per mile slower than your goal marathon pace. Of course, that depends on what your goal marathon pace is. So the idea of these is that it reduces wear and tear on your body. It also means that you can recover quicker from your runs. And you should really be thinking about time rather than distance on these runs. So don't go into them with a set pace goal. Instead, think about how much time you're going to be out there running.
In complete contrast to our last tip, you need to be able to run faster to cover 26.2 miles faster. Now, there are two ways of doing this, and they are tempo runs and interval sessions. We've already looked at tempo runs, so let's look at the speed work.
So faster sessions for marathon training can and should be incredibly varied, although arguably there's not much point in doing shorter reps when you're training for a marathon. So instead, why not do some longer reps? And then the idea behind it is that you're getting used to running at a pace that's faster than your planned marathon pace, which means come marathon day, your marathon pace will feel like a casual jog. Okay, maybe not quite. It definitely doesn't feel like that.
So here are some examples of speed sessions that you can build into your marathon training. Just remember to always warm up really well beforehand. So maybe a mile and a half of easy running, and maybe some drills. Now, since you are marathon training, there's no harm if you're feeling up to it in building up that warm up to 2, perhaps even 3 miles. Now, these sessions are short and sharp, short at least compared to your long run that you'll be doing. But they will get you running faster than at any other time and get your legs used to turning over that bit quicker.
Upping your mileage and the number of days that you run per week is another way to get faster over a marathon. So it all depends on what you were doing the last time that you trained for a marathon, but running 4 to 5 days per week with a good mix of tempo runs, intervals, long slow runs and some easy runs can provide huge fitness benefits over the course of your training. Be careful not to overtrain though. Don't up your mileage by any more than 10% per week. Otherwise you can run the risk of getting injured or burnt out from being exhausted.
A number of studies have reported that recreational runners that run more weekly miles have produced better marathon results than runners who run more average distance per run in training. The most obvious way to up your mileage during marathon training is to run more frequently. So if in your last marathon cycle training you ran less than 6 times a week, try and up your game to hit 6 times a week for this one. Each additional run you add in a week will add a little bit more fitness. In fact, Strava data from 10,000 runners at the London Marathon suggests the exact amount of runs we need to be doing a week in order to hit our target times.
Another thing that you should think about is the time spent on your feet and the time that you have to recover. Now, elite runners can tolerate massive high weekly mileages for a reason, and that is because of a number of factors. They spend more time resting, their long runs will take them less time than it takes us mortals to do. They'll take their recovery runs really, really slowly, and they might even nap during the day.
If you want to give yourself the best possible chance of running a fast marathon, then you'll need to taper in the 2 to 3 weeks before the start of the race. This will give your legs the best chance of recovery and reduce that intensity on your build-up to the start line.
So in the week before the race, you'll want to cut down on the length of all your runs, and your last short, sharp track session or interval session should be 4 or 5 days before the race itself.
We've got a much more in-depth look at tapering on our video, all about tapering and how to do it properly on the running channel, so make sure you check that out too.
No matter what your time goal is, you are going to be out on the road for a long time. The number one rule is be aware of your pace and do not start too fast. You're likely to feel great at the beginning. You're rested, you're tapered, you've got fresh legs, you're probably well fueled, so you can see the temptation. But if you overcook it at the beginning, even by a small margin, you will really regret it later on.
Using a heart rate monitor or GPS watch to work out your marathon pace, sticking to it during your training and then hitting it on race day is the ideal. But you need to work out an acceptable margin of error. For example, you can't be saying, I'm going to be doing 7 minutes, 15 seconds, mile in, mile out. Work it more towards, say, I'm going to be doing between 7 minutes and 7 minutes 20 a mile, as we need to be taking into account for the weather, the incline, ups and downs, weaving in and out of different runners, stopping at water stations. And also, don't think of your GPS watch as getting to the end of the marathon and going, ding, 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 I've just hit 26.2 miles. It's not going to work like that. It very rarely hits it on the head. Use the mile markers for that and use your GPS watch as more of a stopwatch.
If you've got a teammate or a friend who's running the same race as you and is happy to be enlisted as your pacemaker, that's a great way to make sure you stay on pace throughout the race, and they can even encourage you as well. That's how I got my marathon PB, by running with someone who was able to keep the pace nice and steady for me. Most races also have official race pacers too, so you could always run with them if that's what you think will help you.
Don't forget to get plenty of rest and recovery if you're going for that PB while you're training for a marathon. You're going to be pushing yourself harder than you ever have before, so you need to be eating well, sleeping well, resting, stretching. By doing all these things, it actually prevents the chance of us getting injured.
Now, ideally, when you're aiming for your marathon PB, you should be getting 8 hours, perhaps even more a night. The elites, they'll get 10, and they might even have a lovely nap during the day. Lucky them. But it is really important. So for more tips on recovery, do check out our recovery playlist on the Running Channel.
Hopefully you found some tips there that are useful to help you train towards that marathon PB. If you've got one coming up in mind, let us know in the comments below. Don't forget to subscribe to the Running Channel for more videos all about running, and we'll see you next time.